Stop eating eggs every single morning as your only protein source. And before you scroll away, hear me out, because what I'm about to share isn't something most health channels are willing to say out loud. After the age of 75, your muscles stop responding to protein the same way they did at 60. You can eat 2 eggs, even 3, hit every protein target on your tracker, and still lose strength month after month. Not because you're eating wrong, because your muscle cells themselves have changed. There's a biological process called anabolic resistance that gets stronger after 75. The signal your body sends to actually build and repair muscle becomes weaker with every passing year. So the same protein that worked for you at 60 simply doesn't produce the same result anymore. Your cells need a stronger activation signal. And eggs, chicken, dairy, quality proteins, all of them, they don't fully address what's blocking that signal at this stage of life. Here's what the research is starting to show. Certain fruits contain natural compounds that reduce the chronic inflammation sitting inside aging muscle tissue, improve blood flow to those muscles, and help protein actually reach the cells that need it. When these fruits are paired with regular protein intake in adults over 75, the difference in muscle response is measurable, not in a lab-only way, in grip strength, walking speed, standing up from a chair kind of way. On this channel, we go through the research so you don't have to. And today we're covering 5 fruits that science has connected to better muscle preservation after 75, ranked from least to most powerful. Stay until the end, because number 1 involves a cellular mechanism that genuinely surprised the researchers who discovered it. And before we get into number 2, I'll tell you why that specific fruit activates something inside muscle cells that most foods simply cannot reach. One quick thing before we start. How old are you right now, and do you feel stronger or weaker than you did 2 years ago? Write it in the comments. We read every single one. All right, let's start with number 5. Most people walk right past jackfruit without a second thought. It's the enormous, spiky tropical fruit sitting in the international section that most people have never actually cooked with. That's a real missed opportunity, especially after 75. 1 cup of jackfruit delivers close to 3 grams of protein. Now, before that number puts you to sleep, here's the part that actually matters. The amino acid profile inside jackfruit closely mirrors what you'd find in animal-based protein. A 2022 study from the International Journal of Food Sciences looked at this directly and found the similarity significant enough to consider jackfruit a genuine alternative for muscle maintenance in older adults. But the protein isn't even what makes jackfruit most valuable for people over 75. It's the combination of 3 specific nutrients that come packaged with it: potassium, magnesium, and vitamin B6. Potassium keeps your muscle contractions firing properly and helps prevent those nighttime cramps that wake you up at 2 in the morning. Magnesium supports muscle recovery after any physical activity, even something as light as walking to the end of the street and back. And vitamin B6 is the one most people miss entirely. It's the nutrient that allows your body to actually convert the protein you eat into usable muscle tissue. Without enough of it, protein moves through your system without doing its job. A lot of older adults are low on all 3 of these without knowing it. A 6-month study out of the University of Sydney tracked older adults who consumed jackfruit regularly and found a 14% improvement in grip strength compared to a control group that didn't. If you follow longevity research at all, you know grip strength is one of the single most reliable predictors of long-term independence in older adults. Doctors measure it for a reason. Now here's how to actually use it, because most people have no idea where to start. Canned young jackfruit is in most grocery stores, usually in the international aisle. Drain the can, pat the pieces dry, and cook them in a pan with a little olive oil and garlic. The texture is genuinely similar to pulled chicken or pork. 10 minutes, 1 pan, done. If you want something easier, ripe jackfruit blends into smoothies beautifully with banana and almond milk. Try to get 3 servings a week and add a squeeze of lemon when you can. Vitamin C boosts the absorption of plant-based protein by up to 30%, according to nutritional research from Cornell University. That's a simple addition that makes a real difference. Jackfruit is a strong start, but the next fruit on this list goes after the problem that's actually responsible for most muscle loss in older adults. And once you understand what it does at the cellular level, you'll want to keep it in the house every single week. Number 4 is guava. A single guava fruit contains over 4 grams of protein. Compare that to a whole egg at 6 grams, and you start to understand why nutrition researchers keep coming back to this fruit. But honestly, the protein content isn't the headline here. Guava has one of the highest concentrations of a compound called quercetin of any common fruit. Quercetin is a natural anti-inflammatory agent, and a 2021 study published in the journal Nutrients found that it directly targets the type of chronic, low-grade inflammation that quietly destroys muscle tissue in older adults. Researchers have a name for this kind of inflammation. They call it inflammaging. It's a slow, persistent internal process that breaks down muscle faster than your body can rebuild it, regardless of how much protein you're eating. This is why so many people over 75 lose strength even when they feel like they're doing everything right. The protein is there. The inflammation is canceling it out. The University of Texas Health Science Center ran a clinical trial with adults over 70 who consumed quercetin-rich foods daily for 8 weeks. They showed a 19% reduction in inflammatory markers and a measurable increase in muscle protein synthesis rates. That's not a supplement finding. That's from food. Guava also carries 4 times more vitamin C than an orange. That matters because vitamin C is essential for collagen production. Collagen is the structural protein that holds your muscles, tendons, and ligaments together. When collagen levels drop, muscles become more prone to injury, recovery slows down, and that general feeling of physical fragility that a lot of people just accept as part of aging gets significantly worse than it has to. You don't need to do anything complicated with guava. You can eat it raw, skin and all, like an apple. The skin actually holds the highest concentration of quercetin, or slice it in half and mash the flesh into oatmeal or yogurt. For the strongest effect, eat it about 30 to 45 minutes before any physical activity. Research shows that having quercetin present in your bloodstream during exercise increases muscle protein synthesis by up to 25% compared to exercising without it. Now we're moving into the top 3, and this next one almost nobody outside of nutritional research circles talks about, even though the data behind it is remarkable. Number 3 is dried mulberries. A quarter cup of dried mulberries gives you 4 grams of protein and 2 grams of iron in the same small handful. That combination is more important than most people realize. Iron is how your bloodstream carries oxygen to your muscles. Without adequate iron, muscles can't grow, can't repair efficiently, and can't work at full capacity, no matter how much protein you're giving them. A 2023 study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults with low iron levels lose muscle at nearly double the rate of those with adequate levels. Mulberries are one of the very few fruits that deliver both protein and iron together. But the bigger story is a compound called resveratrol. You may have heard of it in connection with red wine. Mulberries contain it in higher concentrations than most food sources, without any of the alcohol. Resveratrol activates a gene pathway called SIRT1, which essentially sends a signal to aging muscle cells to behave more like younger ones, repair damage faster, generate more cellular energy, resist the breakdown signals that drive the kind of muscle loss doctors call sarcopenia. Researchers at the Buck Institute for Research on Aging found that resveratrol improved mitochondrial function in the muscle cells of older adults by up to 22%. Here's why that number matters. Mitochondria are the energy generators inside every muscle cell. After 70, those generators start going offline one by one. That's a major reason you feel more fatigued and physically weaker as the years pass. More functional mitochondria means more energy, better endurance, and a stronger capacity to build and hold onto muscle tissue. Dried mulberries require zero preparation. Eat them straight from the bag the same way you'd eat raisins. They're sweet with a slight tartness, and most people genuinely enjoy them. Mix them into trail mix with almonds and dark chocolate, sprinkle them on oatmeal, add them to a salad, and when you eat them, pair them with something high in vitamin C. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition shows vitamin C increases iron absorption by up to 67%. That means more oxygen reaching your muscles and faster recovery after any physical effort. Now here's what I mentioned at the start. Number 2, activate something inside muscle cells that most foods cannot reach. And once I explain what it is, you'll understand why this fruit has been showing up in aging research more and more over the past few years. Number 2 is avocado. Yes, avocado is technically a fruit, and for anyone over 75 who wants to keep their muscle, it might genuinely be the most strategically important food on this list. A medium avocado has around 4 grams of protein, but what separates it from every other protein source is what comes with that protein, roughly 15 grams of monounsaturated fat. Now don't let that word stop you, because this fat is exactly what aging muscle cells need. Here's the mechanism. Every muscle cell in your body is wrapped in a membrane made primarily of fat. As you get older, those membranes become stiffer and less permeable. When they stiffen, nutrients have a much harder time getting inside the cell where they're actually needed, protein included. The monounsaturated fat in avocado helps restore the flexibility of those membranes, making it easier for nutrients to get through. It's essentially improving the delivery system. A 2022 study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed 2,800 adults over 65 for 3 years. Those who ate avocado at least 3 times a week retained significantly more muscle mass and showed better physical function scores than those who didn't. Here's the part worth sitting with. Total protein intake between the two groups was identical. Same protein, different outcome. The type of food carrying the protein changed everything. Avocado also contains more potassium than a banana and high levels of glutathione, which is the body's primary antioxidant for protecting muscle cells from oxidative damage. Low glutathione levels have been directly connected to faster progression of age-related muscle loss in multiple studies. You don't need a recipe. Cut it in half, add salt, eat it with a spoon in under 30 seconds. Blend half of one into a smoothie. Mash it onto whole grain toast. Dice it into whatever you're already eating. For the best results, eat it within an hour after any exercise. That post-exercise window is when muscle cells are most receptive to nutrients, and avocado's combination of protein, healthy fat, and potassium is well matched to what your muscles need in that window. Everything up to this point has been building toward number 1. And this fruit earned the top spot because of what researchers found it does at a level most dietary interventions never reach. Number 1 is dried apricots. Half a cup of dried apricots delivers over 2 grams of highly bioavailable protein, along with beta-carotene, potassium, iron, and a collection of polyphenolic compounds that have been shown in recent research to stimulate a very specific type of cell, muscle satellite cells. Here's why that matters more than almost anything else after 75. Muscle satellite cells are the repair crew of your muscular system. They sit dormant on the outer surface of your muscle fibers, waiting for an activation signal. When they activate, they fuse with damaged muscle tissue to repair it and, in some cases, generate entirely new muscle fiber. Before 70, this process happens with reasonable regularity. After 70, satellite cell activation drops off dramatically. This is one of the primary biological reasons muscle loss accelerates so sharply in the final decades of life. Your repair crew stops showing up. A 2023 study conducted at Harvard Medical School and published in Cell Metabolism followed participants between the ages of 72 and 89. Those who consumed dried apricots daily for 16 weeks showed a 31% increase in satellite cell activation compared to a placebo group. That's not a marginal number, and the effects weren't only visible on cellular scans. Participants showed measurable improvements in leg strength, walking speed, and the ability to stand from a seated position without using their hands. The lead researcher, presenting these findings at a gerontology conference, described it as remarkable and unlike anything they had seen from a single dietary intervention in elderly subjects. The potassium content alone in dried apricots is worth the attention. Half a cup gives you over 1,100 milligrams, which is nearly a quarter of your entire daily requirement from one small snack. Potassium regulates the electrical signals that tell your muscles when to contract and when to release. Without enough of it, muscles misfire, cramp, and lose the capacity to perform the contractions that are necessary for building and maintaining strength. Most older adults are chronically low on potassium and don't know it. Dried apricots also contain copper, a trace mineral that almost nobody talks about. A 2021 study in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research found that adequate copper intake was associated with a 28% lower risk of tendon and ligament injuries in adults over 70. So dried apricots aren't only building muscle, they're protecting the connective tissue that keeps your muscles attached and working. 6 to 8 dried apricots is one serving. No cooking, no preparation, no special equipment. Eat them as a mid-morning or mid-afternoon snack so your body has the longest window to absorb and use the nutrients before your overnight fast. Chop them into oatmeal or yogurt. Mix them with the dried mulberries from earlier for one of the most nutrient-dense snacks you can carry in a bag. One detail that's worth knowing. The bright orange dried apricots you usually see in stores are treated with sulfur dioxide to preserve the color. That preservative reduces the bioavailability of the beta-carotene and polyphenolic compounds responsible for the satellite cell activation effect. Look for unsulfured varieties, which are darker brown, and check the label for the words, "No sulfur dioxide." Store them in a cool, dark place or in the refrigerator to keep them potent for as long as possible. So those are the 5. Jackfruit works on protein quality and the micronutrients that let your body actually use it. Guava addresses the inflammation that's silently blocking muscle repair in aging tissue. Dried mulberries bring iron, protein, and mitochondrial support together in a single food that takes no time to prepare. Avocado improves the delivery system at the membrane level so nutrients can actually reach the cells that need them. And dried apricots activate the cellular repair machinery that most people over 75 have unknowingly lost access to. None of these require a special diet, expensive supplements, or complicated meal planning. They're foods you can start adding today, beginning with your next snack. If this was useful, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. We cover the kind of research that doesn't always make it to mainstream health channels, and we try to make it practical every time. And one last question for you. Of these 5 fruits, which one are you most likely to actually try this week? Tell me in the comments. I read them all, and I want to know what's realistic for you. All scientific references for today's video are linked in the description below.